EGM Network.
Treasure Coast Connector. Connecting residents and businesses of the Treasure Coast. And here's your host, Ellen Contreras.
Welcome to Treasure Coast Connector. I'm your host, Ellen Contreras. This episode is partially sponsored by Libby Weissman and her team at Senior Transition Navigator and Luxury Homes of the Treasure Coast. They work with seniors and their families to navigate transitions with many services like downsizing, decluttering, packing, moving, relocation, and more. For a free consultation, give Libby a call at 772-783-2800 or visit seniortransitionnavigator.com and luxuryhomesofthetreasurecoast.com. Newfield is a unique community being developed by Mattamy Homes in Martin County, and many people are so excited about this. We've talked about it on the show a couple of times. Now we're going to get an update from James Fitzgerald. He's the Director of Community Development for Mattamy Homes, Southeast Florida Division. He's got a lot of great information to share, so welcome to the show, James.
Hey, Ellen. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. And I want everyone to know that you are in your office, corporate headquarters, down south. I'm here in Vero, and we have, just this wonderful computer system enabling this to happen. Thanks to Cindy, our production engineer. And before we get started about Newfield and the updates, I'd like to hear a little bit about your background and what made you want to join Mattamy Homes.
Okay, great. Yeah. So I guess kind of going all the way back, I as early as I can remember, I was always intrigued by, building and construction, even as far back as whether it was like Lincoln Logs or Legos or whatever. And, as I grew up, which was outside in the Atlanta area, that interest kind of continued to develop. And so I ended up studying civil engineering, and following my graduation, I joined a civil engineering consulting firm and worked there for 5 or 6 years until finally making the leap into the development world. And, through a former coworker at my consulting firm, I was introduced to Mattamy, as well as its leadership team in Southeast Florida. I recall being very impressed with the company's values. As I did my research, its owner, Peter Gilgan, and their commitment to philanthropy and community building, and then also just the amazing growth of the company. I think that they built their first home in the late 70s and just started from there with a single home, and has grown it into one of North America's largest privately held home builders. So from a company perspective, I found that all to be very exciting. And then locally, the Southeast Florida division is run by a visionary leader in Dan Grosswald, whom I think you have on.
Oh, yeah, boss. Twice.
Yeah, exactly. And Dan, what I thought was great is he really pushes his employees to become the best versions of themselves. And that helps to propel, not only our careers, but the overall organization's performance. So, the values of the company and Dan's leadership and, meeting some of my colleagues here, it was kind of a no-brainer on deciding to join Mattamy here. And, it's been a great decision for me. Since then, I've been really fortunate to have been given a lot of opportunities to help the division grow and succeed. And, most recently, I've been entrusted in helping to bring Newfield, which has been, unbelievable so far and will continue to be unbelievable to fruition.
Yes. And as I was saying, it's a unique community, and we're going to get into the different aspects of what's happening and milestones. But before we do that, if you could just give us a general, that 35,000 foot overview of Newfield, and then we'll dig into the details.
Absolutely. So I guess the best place to start then is probably its location. For those that are not familiar, Newfield is located in Palm City in northern Martin County. The property is about 5 square miles, so it's not a small piece of land by any stretch. And it's bounded by the turnpike to the east, the C-23 canal, which forms the Martin and St. Lucie County borders to the north. And then we're about a mile north of Martin Highway, or State Road 714.
Mm-hmm.
As it relates to the Newfield master plan, kind of high level, we've got 9 residential mixed-use villages, and then we've got 2 villages that are really focused on kind of workplace uses, small business, and so forth. So the plan is really amazing in and of itself, and it's a product of a lot of really careful foresight and planning by Knight Kiplinger, whose family owned the property for about 40 years prior to selling it to Mattamy Homes. In addition to Dover Cole and Marcella Campbell, who are extremely talented, urbanists and planners. What's I think amazing about the Newfield story, and it's always worth mentioning, is the grassroots kind of community outreach campaign and plan refinement process that Knight and his team did for years to get community buy-off and community support for the project. And so one of the things that we're focused on is making sure that we meet those expectations, meet those promises, and hopefully, continue to retain as much support as the project has. From 35,000 square feet, like I said, the neighborhoods are compact and mixed use, which kind of allows a couple of different things. It allows you to preserve a ton of land, right? So 70% of the project is conserved as public open space, which represents around 2,300 acres, which is amazing and really unprecedented. So that's great. And then, the plan on a kind of a micro and a macro scale, it really focuses on connectivity, the pedestrian experience, and we call it kind of neighborhood by design, meaning that everything is designed in a way that is supposed to enhance the community. And I think that that's what's kind of the differentiator from, most or maybe all of the projects kind of on the Treasure Coast. And that's why we're so excited to be bringing that to fruition.
Wonderful, wonderful. So now Rosette Park, you have people moving in there. So I'd like for you to tell us more about this neighborhood. It's classified as a TND. So if you can tell us about Rosette Park, what TND is, and the significance, its importance.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're happy that Newfield has welcomed its first pioneering homeowners into Rosette Park as of March, actually, which is great. And Rosette Park, like the other villages, is designed using the principles of traditional neighborhood design, or TND, as you noted. And these TND communities, feature compact and walkable neighborhoods that typically have a mix of uses, whether they be residential, commercial, food and beverage, or different types of civic uses. And Rosette Park is no different. The reason why the design technique and the philosophy is so important is because, I think it's an answer to suburban sprawl. It focuses on walkability, accessibility, and community engagement by prioritizing the pedestrian as opposed to the car, right? So these neighborhoods are designed with smaller blocks, narrower streets, and wider sidewalks, all of which helps to kind of build a greater sense of community and promote healthier lifestyles for the residents of Newfield.
Yeah,
so again, Rosette,
go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say again, Rosette is just one of 9 of these residential neighborhoods, and they're all rooted in this design philosophy. In addition to featuring the homes in Rosette with different sizes, styles, and price points, which is really important to the success of these TND communities, we also have a town center that we're getting ready to kick off and break ground on towards the end of this year. So Rosette Park is really interesting and different from even other TND communities in the sense that, Mattamy Homes is starting with the town center first and these different mixes of uses. So I think that that's really what makes Rosette Park very special, even within the context of the Newfield master plan.
Wonderful. And then you have the recently opened Newfield Farm. So I would love to hear how big it is, the purpose, and what is it? What can the people do with this farm?
Yeah. So in addition to kind of the conservation, one of the other, central components, and what's at the heart of kind of the Newfield identity, I think, is the farm. The land has been farmed for decades. It was citrus for a long time. It's currently being farmed outside of Rosette Park for red potatoes and sweet corn. And so the Newfield Master Plan sets aside 170 acres for agricultural uses in perpetuity. So it's a major part of the plan. It's a major part of the legacy of the land, and it'll be a major part of the future for Newfield. So far, we've reactivated about 5 acres of that farm area, and that all falls within, the Rosette Park neighborhood boundary limits. And up until, when the town center is ready, it's almost serving as this really exciting epicenter for activity. Last Friday we had a farm jam, which was, I think, attended by about 250 people. We had a local band, some food trucks, and so that was great. So it's really starting to get some buzz between those types of events and the farmers markets, and it's going to be a really tremendous venue that'll be enjoyed not only by our residents, but by members of the public as well. There's two. It's kind of anchored on each side by 2 really prominent, in my opinion, very beautiful buildings. One is the Harvest House. And so that's the venue that hosts the community supported agriculture program, which I know this sounds like a lot of buzzwords, but what it really is it gives people an opportunity to become a part of the farm, to help support the farm, and to kind of reap the rewards and benefits of supporting the farm, which is access to a ton of amazing sustainably produced produce, herbs, flowers, etc. So we're really excited about that, and that's open today. Actually, it's open now and on the weekends right now. And then as the community scales, we'll keep that open during the week. And then the other end of the farm is anchored by this big, beautiful blue barn that's the home for the agricultural team. So we have a group whose name is Mattamy, who's kind of the pioneers of planning and operating these agricultural amenities throughout the country. And they've got a team on site that comprises our farm team who make sure that everything is operating the way that it needs to. They'll do all the farming, the washing, the packing, and making sure that, the produce makes it to our customers or to the farm club. So, there's a lot going on there, and it also doubles as a really beautiful event venue. So it's not quite open yet. It should be open in the next 3-4 weeks. So we're going to be very excited to starting to have, a lot of different types of activities and programming there very soon.
Well, wonderful. I can't wait to see it. And what we have to do right now is we have to take a very quick break. So James Fitzgerald of Mattamy Homes talking about Newfield. He's got a lot more to discuss when we return, so stay tuned.
At Sunshine Furniture, our 35,000 square foot showroom is filled with the largest selection of in-stock coastal furniture on the Treasure Coast. Dining and bedroom sets, occasional tables, sofas, sleeper sofas, love seats and chairs, and all the latest styles and colors from Tommy Bahama, Lexington, Hooker, Riverside, Universal Coastal Living, Four Seasons, Braxton Color, and Capri. We're also the outdoor furniture experts and have hundreds of styles of any patio furniture you need, including a gallery of Berlin Gardens and Pollywood. We specialize in fire pits, outdoor rugs, umbrellas, and replacement cushions. Right now, we're having a spring sale with lots of great markdowns and discounts on everything you need for your Florida home, including all pictures, lamps, and accessories half price. Sunshine Furniture, $12.95 US 1 in the Publix Plaza, Vero Beach. Don't forget to visit our outlet store directly across the street, filled with lots of brand name closeouts and sale items. And visit our website at sunshinefurniturecasual.com.
Reserve time for Mom at Marsh Landing. Enjoy Mother's Day specials like Low Country Benedict, Peach Cobbler French Toast, roast beef, or Parmesan crusted chicken. Share a monster Bloody Mary pitcher and celebrate Mom this Mother's Day at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere.
Hey you! Host your very own show every week at Evergreen Media Network in Vero Beach. Go live to YouTube and Facebook with up to 4 people and your very own producer. Be heard on more than 15 podcast platforms and local radio. All you have to do is show up and talk. Your guests can join from anywhere in the world. It's easy to get started with the largest podcast studio on the Treasure Coast. Contact Evergreen Media to tour the studio.
Welcome back to Treasure Coast Connector. I'm your host, Ellen Contreras, and I've been chatting with James Fitzgerald, and he is the Director of Community Development for Mattamy Homes. We're talking about Newfield, this amazing development that is being built down in Martin County. And I want to dive back into the conversation because in the first half, I was saying that Newfield is way more than just a residential community. There is so much going on here. So, James, what I would love for you to share now is the details about KC Trails. You mentioned Kiplinger, so we would want to hear about the Kiplinger Conservancy, and the FWC approval to create Martin County's first ever gopher tortoise preserve. Tell us all about this, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ellen. And I think that one of the amazing things about the Newfield project is not necessarily what is being developed. I mean, at times I think it's what's not being developed, right? So the project preserves 70% of the total site area, which is 3,400 acres, as public open space. Much of this public open space falls within the Kiplinger Conservancy, which is an 1,800 or so acre swath of natural land that's home to a ton of different wildlife, native upland habitats and wetland areas. And the Kiplinger Conservancy is also home to the Martin County's first gopher tortoise recipient site that received approval from the FWC in March. So we're very excited about that. It took us about 18 months probably from the date of application to when we finally received approval. And, what we had to do during that time was, we took this really dense kind of forested area. We did some clearing, some roller chopping of some of the saw palmetto. We had to do some controlled burns, and then we had to restore everything, that whole area, which is about 30 acres, to meet kind of the ecological requirements for kind of an ideal gopher tortoise habitat. So we finally got that approved, and why it's important, other than the fact that this is the first one in Martin County, which is great, is that it allows us to ensure that we're not having to relocate any of the gopher tortoises that may be encountered in any of the areas that are being developed outside of Martin County. The gopher tortoises can stay on site, which is great, and something that is extremely unique across the state. So that's very exciting. And of course, the Kiplinger Conservancy is also home to the KC Trails, which right now we've developed about 8.5 miles of trails. We have 2 trailheads, one of which is open and being utilized now, the other that will be opened up in about 6 or 8 weeks. And the Kiplinger Conservancy and the trails have seen a ton of activity, a ton of visitors, some of whom come on a daily basis. So that's been really great to be able to provide, an amazing amenity that can be open not only to Newfield residents, but to, visitors alike as well. So that's been really exciting. And, even in addition to the folks that visit, we've got a lifestyle team that is putting on different types of events there. We've had 2 5Ks that have been extremely successful, even despite some rain. We've got a weekly hiking group, and we've got just a huge runway of different types of events that we're now starting to plan and activate. So it's been really great so far.
Yeah, so impressive. 8 miles of trails. Oh, my goodness. Now, the development obviously is far from over. So if you want to talk about the future phases and what we can expect for the development.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you had mentioned, we are just now welcoming the first residents. So while it feels like the project has been around for a while, and I think that people have been really waiting to see it get built, or if it would get built, we're still in kind of the infant stages, which is amazing. We think that it's probably a 15-year build out, depending on economic and housing market cycles. So we'll see kind of what the future has to offer. But first and foremost, we're very excited about bringing the town center and starting that very soon, towards the end of the year. That'll be kind of a multi-phased project within Rosette Park that'll get developed over time, depending on how quickly these spaces get leased up. But it's going to be an amazing place to work, live, and play. So that's going to be great. And believe it or not, we're actually in the beginning stages of reevaluating Rosette Park to determine what's been really successful, what we might do differently in the next neighborhoods. So we've started really studying that, evaluating our product offering, our pricing structure, even the parks and amenities that will be offered at Rosette Park, just to try to make sure that if there is any way that we can kind of tweak the plan for the next neighborhood, we can do that and just better hone in on our offering. So that's very exciting. And, in addition to planning the town center, executing the town center, as well as planning the next village, we're going to be very excited this year to break ground on a soccer facility complex, which will have 4 soccer fields and another additional access point to the Casey Trails. We'll have additional mileage and another phase of trails to add as well to the Casey Trails. And then we've just kicked off design on a 125-acre man-made wetland project that's actually designed to treat water from the C-23 canal to the north through this man-made marsh system prior to reintroducing that treated and cleaned water back into the C-23 canal. So we've got, in terms of the built environment and some of these more natural types of projects, there's certainly, a lot to look forward to on the horizon.
Yes, it is all super, super exciting. I think that anybody that moves in there that is bored, I think that there's just silly. That's my own personal opinion, James, of which I have many. It's just so impressive to know. It just almost feels like you can move in and stay there and not even have to leave. I just love that. And so the last thing I want to ask you is about the partnerships that you have created with others in the community. We have 2 minutes, so I'm going to give you the next 60 seconds to tell us about that and any future events.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Mattamy is more than just a builder of neighborhoods. As a company, it strives to improve the wider communities that we have the privilege of becoming a part of. And I think that we've done just that in the Treasure Coast and in Martin County. We've got a great relationship with the Boys and Girls Club of Martin County. We've done some work with the Treasure Coast Food Bank, as well as other nonprofits. But one group that I did want to mention, who we have a great partnership with, is our neighbor to the east of us, Citrus Grove Elementary School. So we've had an opportunity to work with their staff on a variety of different programs. They've come out to help us plant some trees for Florida's Arbor Day the last couple of years. And we're also thrilled to be able to be a part of their goat walk program. So they have a reading program, the winners of which actually have got to lead goats on a hike through the Casey Trails. So they've been pretty excited about that. So we look forward to, it's been great to have those types of experiences, and we look forward to continuing those relationships with those organizations, and finding other organizations that we can work with and partner with in the future as well.
Well, very good. I didn't want to interrupt you, but you're not here in the studio, so you don't realize we're about to run out of time. But I didn't want to interrupt about the goats. James Fitzgerald, Mattamy Homes, thank you so much for being on the show. This is so impressive, the work that you're doing. And I just want to say a quick thank you to Libby Weissman and her team at Senior Transition Navigator and Luxury Homes of the Treasure Coast. Give her a call at 772-783-2800. And again, James, Mattamy Homes, Newfield, for everyone listening and watching, you gotta go and check out this place this weekend. My name is Ellen Contreras, host of Treasure Coast Connector. Have a great week.